Hi, my name is Juliet, and today I'm sitting here with Thomas Benedict, the author of The Winning Dialogue, to have a little conversation about this book and what it's about and what it can bring you. Good morning, Thomas. Thank you for joining us. And we're sitting here in your office, so I can't help but wonder, is this the place that inspired you to write this book?
No, actually, I think I wrote it before we even got to this office. It's more or less 20 years ago that I started the book.
Yeah.
And so that was even before we had this place. So I think the book was its own inspiration. And actually, it was my intention to use this book to round off my career as a trainer, because I worked as a corporate trainer in sales, negotiation, leadership training, all that kind of thing. And I wanted really to use this book to sort of finalize my work there, and of course didn't completely work.
Make a new beginning for yourself.
Yeah.
So take me back to that beginning. Why did you actually write this book? What started it?
I think there are two reasons. I think there's a reason from my perspective, and there's a reason from my client's perspective. And if I start with my client's perspective, one of the customers asked me. And these were really senior people, and they'd seen everything, done everything, worked all over the world, and done loads of training sessions. And they said, we feel there's some sort of common thread in all the trainings we've received, but we just don't quite see the common thread. So could you help us to let's say, organize all those different learnings into something that is one model? So can we sort of connect sales training to leadership training to interview techniques? Where's the commonality in that? And that resonated a lot, and that's the second reason with my own experience, because I've been training doctors, dustmen, salespeople, account managers, leaders, and I always wondered why the same sort of models or the same approach, of course we tailored the programs, but not really the techniques behind the programs. So why that worked for everyone. And I was really looking for a meta model, and sort of a model that encompasses all these models for negotiation, for interviewing, of all the other conversation techniques. So how could I bring that all together? So that was really the two reasons for me to start writing the book.
Okay, so you're speaking about this model. Yeah. How does that translate into this book?
Well, I wanted to actually to write down the implicit model that I was already using when I was training people, and when I was working also in developing trainings and developing models for specific conversations. And I wanted to sort of codify that and to make sure it was a complete story that encompasses any kind of professional conversation. So what I did is I was thinking there's always some kind of order in which you should do things, and that order always comes back. Like, you need to listen before you start speaking. It's one of the principles of Covey. Understand before you seek to be understood, and that's one of those simple things. Like, first listen and then start solving a problem, or if you want to negotiate, first explore and then start dividing. But also, if there's emotion or any kind of anger or resistance in a conversation, that needs to be dealt with first before you're trying to solve a problem. So that was an important principle. So there is an order in things. And even if you've prepared a conversation to do it in a certain way, and the conversation gets disrupted because there turns out to be something that needs to be done first, you really need to stop what you're doing and move. And that is, of course, the model of the house that I created. So there's 4 floors underground. That's resistance, that's emotion, manipulation, and aggression. Those are the things that really get in your way of a conversation. And there are 4 floors above the ground, which is listening and talking, solving problems, negotiating, and coming to a deal. And those are really the things those above the ground things are actually the things that you, as a professional or as a leader or as a salesperson, you just want to be there. You want to share information, solve the problems, possibly negotiate, make a deal, and get out of there. or you want to, to talk about the problems and work it out and then shake hands and move forward. Whatever you're doing, whatever professional conversation, you want to be on that upper level. And you really don't want to be in the resistance and the emotion, and especially not in the aggression or the manipulation. But the thing is, that happens. And that's the stuff that gets in your way. And if you are only focused on your own goals, you don't focus on where the other person is, you're not going to succeed. So you need to adapt during the conversation to what's happening with the other person. And if you don't do that, you lose each other and you're not going to be successful. So one of the principles in the winning dialogue is you need to focus on the other person, and you need to move away from your own. You have to remember your own goals, but you have to move away from your own agenda in order to reach those goals, because you reach them through connecting to the other person. That connecting is really the process of moving to the layer or to the floor where the other person is and earning the right, that's another principle, to make the step upwards to where you want to be.
Yeah. So it's important to take a step back and to reflect on what the perspective of the other person is, right?
Well, actually, it's important to continuously work on two levels. First of all, what are you actually wanting to talk about? What do you want to achieve? But also, what is happening in the conversation? So I call it a sort of a helicopter view. And if you're trained in the winning dialogue, you sort of have that model of the house in the back of your head. And you're thinking, okay, where am I working now? And oops, I have to move. I have to go downstairs a little bit before I can move upwards again. So it's really working on two levels. It's not that much reflecting outside of the conversation, because you have to do that as well, but you need to do it while you're talking.
So could you talk us a little bit through this model that you've created?
The model consists of 9 layers. Now that seems extremely complicated, but the 9 are really divided into 3 parts. There's let's say the rational part, the part where you get to constructive stuff, where you reach agreements, where you solve problems, where you share information. That's the top of the house. The bottom of the house is really the things that get in the way, so the emotions, the resistance, etc. And in the middle, there's the layer of structure, because somewhere between emotions and disruption in a conversation and the rational part, the constructive part, there's the moment where you say, okay, what are we doing and in what order are we doing stuff? So if I start at the bottom of the house, right at the bottom, that is the nastiest stuff that you're going to meet in a conversation. We've put in aggression, and aggression has a lot of sides to it, so we call that level -4. And that really has to do with learning how to set limits and how to protect yourself even when there's an aggressive situation going on. Now, one layer above that is manipulation and sort of hidden coercion. So there are all types of behavior, like positive and negative manipulation, that can really disrupt you in a conversation and make you maybe, and that's why people manipulate, to make it more easy for them to get their way. There in manipulation on level -3, it's important that you learn to listen to your feelings and act on them, and also steer the conversation actually away from that manipulative behavior towards what the conversation should be about. And when we get to level -2, we're on the level of real emotion, because if you're manipulating, you can also show a lot of emotion, but it may not be completely real. On level -2, it is real. Someone is sad, someone is angry, and there, of course, you need to learn to listen and let the person blow off steam. Level -1 is resistance. And resistance is really someone hesitating or not being quite happy with what's being suggested, and but throwing a little bit of sand in the machine, possibly. So those are the disruptive layers. And level -4 means that if something is going on, whatever's going on in a conversation, and aggression starts happening, you need to go there. You need to do something about that. And once you've done that, and if then there is manipulation, that's where you need to be. Yeah? So the lower you are in the model, the more urgent it is to deal with it. So when you've dealt with all that, you get to level 0, which is structure, which is, okay, what are we going to be talking about? Which order are we happy with that? And then you get to the constructive layers. Level 1 is really just sharing information, convincing, talking, listening. Level 2 is solving problems and or trying to negotiate in both people's interest. Level 3 is really the negotiation where you need to divide stuff. So something, concessions need to be done. The pie needs to be shared in a certain way. That's level 3, and level 4 is reaching agreements. So we have that's the constructive layers. In the middle you have the ground floor is your structure, and below that is the disruptive levels. So, and as I said, you're trying to go ultimately towards an agreement that everyone is happy with in whatever way, and the disruptive levels, they get in the way, and that just happens, and you need to act on that, and you need to move there.
So in real life, do you always interpret your interactions this way? Like, oh, you're manipulating, or?
Oh yeah. I think that anyone who is trained in the winning dialogue starts recognizing the levels and seeing what's going on. It doesn't mean to say that you're always able to come up with this magic adequate reaction, but at least recognizing from, okay, this is going on, and I need to find a way to deal with this. That is one of the big wins out of the winning dialogue. I think that you understand what's happening and also can see maybe there's a thread in the challenges that you meet in your conversations, whatever conversations they are, that you notice that you find it difficult to listen to emotions, for instance. And if that is the case, then you know there's something you need to work on. That's not really in the book. How do you work on that? But it is a signal that that's something that needs work. And there of course, there are 9 layers, and everyone sticks on 1 or 2 layers. And that's where your job is, to improve your skills.
The book is really about communicating and negotiating. How do you think it would be relevant for people who aren't negotiating as a central part of their business?
Well, I think that might be one of the mistakes that I made when we were marketing this book, is that the publisher wanted it to be specifically about negotiation. And there's a lot in the book about negotiation. And frankly, I believe that we all negotiate all the time. So negotiation is actually a very important part of communication. And it's an interesting part of communication because it's actually the most complex, the most unstructured form, because everything is negotiable, also the conversation itself. And so it is an important part of the book. I think it's an important part of everyone's work. But I think that the group of people who are most helped by the winning dialogue are actually leaders, because leaders come into all sorts of conversations and they're very unstructured. They happen at any possible time during the day. It can be about strategy, it can be about plans, it can be about problems, it can be about feedback, and you need to be able to adapt very, very quickly to what's going on. And the winning dialogue is really about that. And it encompasses everything that you can meet during a workday.
So do you have some examples from the winning dialogue that you implement in your daily life as a consultant?
Oh yeah, I think one of the things that happens every day is as consultants, we're always trying to convince people of stuff. We want them to do something differently or accept a certain idea. And when that happens, you quite often see people sort of going like, yeah, or nah, I don't know. And that actually, for most of us, and I see that in all our consultancy work, is it's a trigger to push harder. So we're seeing the person is hesitating, so come on, let's do it. And I think one of the big learnings out of the winning dialogue is that is really someone going onto a different floor in the model. So you are on level 1, you're trying to convince people, and that the person, when they're sort of hesitating or they're resisting a little bit, they're going into level -1, which is resistance. And that really is a sign that you need to stop what you're doing and connect with the person. I see you're hesitating, I see you're not quite happy with the idea. And that really brings you back into connection. And that can be just a minute. Someone says, oh, no, I was just thinking of something else. Or, yeah, I was just a bit worried about this and that. And if you just deal with that on that level, that earns you the right to get back to level one. And the same goes for negotiation. I mean, if you're in a negotiation and you really start feeling uncomfortable, that is usually because you're being manipulated and someone is trying sort of tricks and things that are pushing you away from what you're intending to do and maybe making you feel uncomfortable or dependent. And that needs to be dealt with before you can have that real conversation about the content. So there are all sorts of examples, and it is very useful. The nice thing about the winning dialogue was that we've been using it for maybe 20 years, and it is the backbone of all the trainings that we do, whether it's for an airline or for a high-tech company or energy company, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so I'm just thinking right now, and what will you say to someone who would suggest that the winning dialogue and its methods are simply tricks for manipulation? Or
well, one of the principles, and I've been thinking, I mean, manipulation is of course a word that we use a lot in the winning dialogue, that you should stay away from it. Okay. So I've been thinking about manipulation, and that manipulation is really trying to play away the other person's freedom of choice. And I think there's a big difference between influencing and manipulation. So influencing is above board. It's open, and you leave a choice to the other person. And once you start playing games and using tricks in order to get someone to cooperate or to agree with something that you'd like, that is something that we strongly disagree with, and we would not encourage people to do. The winning dialogue is really about respecting the other person, understanding the other person, and trying to look for the win-win, and hence the winning dialogue. Is not about me winning over you or anyone winning over anyone else, but it's really about finding the common ground and winning together.
Okay. At the beginning of this conversation, you mentioned that it was a while ago that this book was even started being thought about. How would you say it's aged in terms of digital communication?
Well, it's certainly written on paper, so it's, in that sense, it's aged. There is already, of course, an ebook version, but I think and I think that's been proven time over time that it has an intrinsic value. It's really about people, about how they tick and how they work and what they need in order to feel comfortable in a conversation and to trust, to build trust. So I think that really does hold true. I think that there's not so much a problem with the aging of the model, but I do think that digital communication makes real conversations difficult, especially when there's emotion involved, or people get feedback, or they receive. Or they hear something that they're not too happy with, get bad news. Those are things that are difficult to do in a chat, but still people try to do those in chats, and I think that is a big problem. And I would suggest to anyone that if you've got a conversation like that, or you feel emotional or angry or whatever, don't get WhatsApp. Don't put it in an email, but really try to have that real conversation, and that's where the winning dialogue comes in.
How would you say that the winning dialogue separates itself from other?
There are a lot of conversation models, and there are some that I like and some that I don't like that much. I've tried to incorporate as many as possible of these models also in the winning dialogue, so that you'll recognize a lot of Stephen Covey, but you'll also recognize a lot of Urian Fisher. So that is getting to the Harvard negotiating model. You'll see a lot of that in the winning dialogue. I think the thing that separates the winning dialogue from any other model is that it is not it's not a hard and fast method. It doesn't tell you do this and then do that and then do that, but it really is a model that empowers you to create your own model. and your own conversation, to analyze your own conversation. So it's instead of showing you describing a route, it really gives you the map. And I don't know any other model that does that.
Thomas, thank you very much.